Emma's heart hammered against her ribs as she fumbled with the emergency procedures folder. The thin plastic sleeve contained a single laminated sheet with color-coded instructions she now struggled to read through trembling fingers. Red section. Lockdown. Her eyes darted over the bullet points, while the students' urgent whispers filled the room. What's happening? Is this for real? My sister's in the East Wing. Everyone stay calm, Emma said, her voice steadier than she felt. We need absolute silence now. She glanced at the windows facing the hallway and cursed silently. The previous teacher had decorated them with colorful biology-themed paper cutouts that partially obscured her view. Through the gaps, she caught glimpses of other teachers securing their doors, their faces set with the grim determination of those who'd practiced this scenario, but never expected to implement it. Emma methodically checked each point on the procedure list. Door locked, lights off, blinds closed, students away from sightlines. The room fell into an eerie half-darkness, broken only by the glow of phone screens, as students hunched behind lap tables, thumbs flying across keyboards. Phones on silent, screens dimmed, Emma whispered, moving between clusters of teenagers. Some complied immediately while others continued frantically texting parents and friends. A girl with long braids showed Emma her screen. A group chat, exploding with conflicting information from students throughout the building. Asterisk armed person in the building asterisk. Asterisk shots fired by cafeteria asterisk. Asterisk my cousin works for police says multiple suspects asterisk. Asterisk it's a gang thing asterisk. Emma gently pushed the phone down. We don't know anything for certain, she whispered. Please keep it silent. The intercom crackled again, making everyone flinch. This time, the voice was different. The assistant principal, her words clipped and professional. All teachers implement full lockdown protocols. This is not a drill. Await further instructions. Do not open doors for anyone. Emma sank down behind the teacher's desk, her back against the cool metal drawer. Her own phone vibrated in her pocket. Text messages from other substitute teachers in the building. Asterisk, any idea what's happening? J. Room 118 asterisk. Asterisk police everywhere outside. Melissa. Room 205 asterisk. Asterisk, is this the shooter drill they mentioned at orientation? Damien. Room 157 asterisk. She didn't respond. From her position, she could see all 27 students. What shocked her most was the efficiency with which they'd adapted, as if an entire generation had internalized these procedures on a cellular level. Some had pulled knees to chests, making themselves smaller behind furniture. Others formed protective clusters, older students instinctively shielding younger ones. In the sudden quiet, every sound became magnified. The hum of the aquarium filter, someone's stifled sob, the distant wail of approaching sirens. Emma found herself cataloging these noises, anchoring herself to them as the minutes stretched painfully forward. Her gaze landed on the biology lessons still displayed on the screen. Cell division frozen mid-explanation. The irony wasn't lost on her. Just minutes ago, she'd been teaching students about how cells multiply and grow. Now she was responsible for keeping these young lives intact through whatever threat lurked beyond the locked door. The classroom had fallen into a rhythm of tense silence, punctuated by text notifications that made everyone flinch. 2 hours and 12 minutes into the lockdown, Emma had managed to organize the students into smaller groups, each huddled behind different lab tables. She moved between them, whispering reassurances she didn't fully believe herself. When the classroom doorknob suddenly rattled, the sound was like a gunshot in the silence. Emma froze mid-step, caught in the open between 2 tables. 27 pairs of eyes locked onto her, waiting for guidance she wasn't qualified to give. The doorknob rattled again, more insistently this time, followed by 3 sharp knocks. Riverside Police, called a muffled voice. Room check. Protocol said not to open for anyone, even someone claiming to be police. But what if they were actually evacuating? What if ignoring the command put her students at greater risk? Emma inched toward the door, heart pounding in her throat. Through the small window, she could see a dark silhouette, features indistinguishable in the dim emergency lighting of the hallway. "Show ID," she called, her voice cracking. The figure pressed something against the glass. Too small, too dark to properly identify. Emma hesitated, her hand hovering near the lock. Behind her, Sophia's breathing suddenly quickened, transforming into rapid, shallow gasps that seemed deafening in the silence. The girl clutched at her chest, eyes wide with panic. I can't breathe," she wheezed. Two boys, Ryan and Jason, broke from their positions to help her, overturning a stool in the haste. The metal clattered loudly against the linoleum, triggering a renewed barrage of knocking at the door. "Open up now," commanded the voice more forcefully. The situation was spiraling. Sophia's hyperventilation had worsened, her face flushing alarmingly red. Other students were now moving too, their carefully maintained positions dissolving as the panic spread. Emma made a split-second decision. She turned away from the door and rushed to Sophia, kneeling beside the struggling girl. "Look at me," she instructed firmly, taking Sophia's hands. "Breathe with me. In, hold, out." The knocking became pounding, the door shuddering in its frame. Emma's phone lit up with a text from another teacher. "Do not open your door." Unconfirmed reports of someone impersonating officers. Cold dread washed over her. The figure remained at the door, one hand now pressed flat against the window. Was that a uniform sleeve or just a dark jacket? Was the glint at the hip a badge or something else entirely? "Ms. Harris," whispered Ryan, his voice trembling. "What do we do?" The pounding paused. Then, more terrifying than the noise, came the sound of metal scraping against metal, the unmistakable sound of someone trying to force the lock. 27 students looked to Emma, a substitute teacher, a temporary guardian, someone who had signed up to explain mitosis and meiosis, not to make life or death decisions. In that moment, she realized there was a reason emergency protocols existed, to provide clarity when fear clouded judgment. Her decision crystallized. Emma positioned herself between the door and her students, grabbed the heaviest textbook from the desk, and prepared for whatever would happen next. 3 hours and 48 minutes into the lockdown, the school intercom finally crackled to life. "Attention Riverside High. This is Principal Hernandez. The lockdown is now lifted. I repeat, the lockdown is now lifted. Teachers, please follow standard exit procedures." Emma remained frozen, textbook still clutched in her hands. The scraping at the door had stopped 15 minutes earlier, the shadowy figure disappearing after a crackled radio message Emma couldn't decipher. She eyed the intercom suspiciously. "Ms. Harris?" Tyler ventured. "Shouldn't we go now?" "Not yet," Emma replied, her voice hoarse from hours of whispered instructions. She checked her phone. No new alerts contradicting the all clear. Still, after hours of heightened vigilance, trust came slowly. 5 minutes later, keys jangled in the lock. The door swung open to reveal Assistant Principal Greer, flanked by 2 uniformed officers. "You're safe now," Ms. Greer said, her usually immaculate appearance disheveled, dark circles prominent under her eyes. "We're evacuating wing by wing. These officers will escort your class to the field." The students unfurled from their positions like plants seeking sunlight after a storm, wincing at stiff limbs and pins and needles sensations. Emma gathered her few belongings with mechanical movements, her mind still processing that the danger, whatever it had been, was over. Outside, the April afternoon had transformed into early evening, the setting sun casting long shadows across the faculty parking lot. Parents crowded against police barriers, scanning the emerging students for their children. News vans lined the street, reporters gesturing toward the school as they delivered updates to cameras. Emma stood apart, watching as her temporary students reunited with their families in scenes of tearful embraces and fierce hugs. Nobody approached her. Substitute teachers existed on the periphery of school communities, necessary, but rarely incorporated into the familial fabric of the institution. "Ms. Harris." She turned to find Principal Hernandez approaching, his tie loosened, sleeves rolled up. "I wanted to thank you personally," he said. "Officer Reyes mentioned your classroom maintained perfect protocol throughout." "What happened?" Emma asked, the question that had tormented them for nearly 4 hours. Hernandez sighed heavily. Maintenance worker with a pipe wrench. New hire, doesn't speak much English. A student saw him in the hallway, thought the wrench was a weapon, and called 911. When security approached him, he got scared and ran, which escalated everything. He rubbed his temple. The person at your door was an officer, but he hadn't followed proper identification procedures. Your instinct to keep the door locked was correct. Emma nodded, relief and residual adrenaline, making her lightheaded. Will you be able to return tomorrow? Hernandez asked. The students will need familiar faces. Emma stared at the school building, emergency lights still flashing against its brick exterior. In that moment, she realized some experiences fundamentally changed a person. Today, she had been transformed from someone who taught other people's children to someone who would have defended them with her life. No, she said quietly. I don't think I will. 3 months later, Emma began a corporate training position with predictable hours and adult learners. Yet she never drove past a school without remembering those 27 faces looking to her for salvation, and the weight of responsibility that came with standing between children and a door that might open to reveal their worst nightmares. An hour into the lockdown, Emma's legs had gone numb from crouching behind the desk. She shifted position carefully, wincing as pins and needles flooded her feet. The classroom temperature had risen with 28 bodies generating heat in an enclosed space. Yet she noticed several students shivering, not from cold, but from sustained adrenaline and fear. A series of muffled pops from somewhere in the building made everyone freeze. Textbooks, doors slamming, or something worse? Emma couldn't tell. And the uncertainty was its own form of torture. She made eye contact with a boy named Tyler who had been clowning around earlier during the lesson. Now his face was ashen, all traces of teenage bravado stripped away by raw fear. Miss Harris, whispered a girl named Justine, her voice barely audible. My mom's an ER nurse at County General. She says they've been told to prepare for incoming wounded. Emma's stomach twisted. We don't know if that's connected to our situation, she whispered back, though the coincidence seemed unlikely. Please don't share that with others right now. Too late. The whispered information spread through the huddle of students like a virus, manifesting in widened eyes and trembling lips. Emma cursed herself for not anticipating how quickly information, reliable or not, would propagate through the group. Outside, the helicopter that had been circling grew louder, its rhythmic thudding seeming to match her heartbeat. Through a narrow gap in the blinds, Emma glimpsed its searchlight sweeping across the school grounds, illuminating patches of the soccer field in harsh white light. Her phone vibrated again. A district-wide alert. Asterisk, remain in lockdown. Law enforcement conducting systematic search of building. Do not attempt to exit asterisk. The message triggered a fresh wave of texts from parents to students. One boy silently turned his screen toward Emma, a news alert showing their school's name in bold headlines. Asterisk breaking. Possible active shooter at Riverside High asterisk. Emma swallowed hard. The media knew as little as they did, but was broadcasting speculation to the world. She imagined parents stuck in traffic, desperately trying to reach the school, police barricades preventing them from getting closer. A soft whimper drew her attention to Sophia, a quiet student who sat front row center. The girl was hugging her knees, rocking slightly. Emma crawled over to her, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. Deep breaths, she whispered. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Sophia nodded, struggling to control her breathing. Another student slid closer, offering a water bottle. The small gesture of kindness made Emma's throat tighten. Despite their fear, they were looking after each other. A sharp bang from the hallway, much closer this time, cut through the silence. Everyone instinctively pressed themselves flatter against the floor. Emma's hand found Sophia's and squeezed reassuringly, though there was nothing reassuring about their situation. The classroom clock ticked forward mercilessly. 1 hour and 17 minutes in lockdown. Rumors continued to multiply. The threat remained hidden, undefined, all the more terrifying for its invisibility. And Emma, a substitute teacher who had only wanted to get through the day without incident, found herself silently rehearsing what she would do if the door suddenly burst open and the abstract threat became horrifyingly concrete. Emma watched the students file into the classroom for third period, mentally matching faces to the seating chart Mr. Peterson had left. 27 sophomores with varying degrees of interest in cellular biology. She smiled as she handed out the worksheet packets, trying to project confidence despite feeling like an imposter. As Mr. Peterson noted in your last class, today we'll be covering mitosis and meiosis, Emma announced, uncapping a dry erase marker. A few groans rippled through the room, but most students dutifully opened their textbooks. The classroom itself felt like an extension of Mr. Peterson's personality. Meticulously organized lab tables, scientific posters covering every available wall space, and a collection of microscopes that Emma had been explicitly instructed not to let students touch unsupervised. A skeleton hung in the corner, wearing a lab coat and sporting a name tag that read, Mr. Bones. As Emma began writing key terms on the whiteboard, she noticed a group of boys in the back passing notes. She paused, considering whether to address it, when a girl in the front row raised her hand. Ms. Harris, will this be on the test Friday? According to Mr. Peterson's notes, yes, Emma replied, grateful for the distraction. He specifically mentioned that you should understand the stages of both processes. The girl nodded seriously and began highlighting her notes with color-coded markers. Emma returned to the diagram she was sketching, feeling more settled as she fell into the familiar rhythm of teaching. From the hallway came the sounds of school life, lockers slamming, snippets of conversation, the occasional burst of laughter. Normal sounds that Emma had come to associate with her substitute teaching assignments. Through the classroom windows, she could see the school grounds stretching toward the athletic fields, where a gym class was running laps in the crisp autumn air. Emma checked her watch. Still 40 minutes left in the period. She turned to face the class, gesturing toward the projected diagram. Can anyone tell me the primary difference between mitosis and meiosis? A few hands shot up, and Emma felt a small surge of satisfaction. Despite being a substitute, she could still engage students, still maintain control of a classroom. After 3 years of bouncing between schools in the district, she was considering applying for a permanent position. Days like today, ordinary, predictable, structured, reinforced that teaching might be her calling after all. The classroom phone rang, startling her. Probably the office with a routine message. Emma picked it up, balancing it between her ear and shoulder as she continued writing on the board. Room 213, Ms. Harris speaking. Emma, this is Diane from the front office, came the tense voice on the other end. Just giving you a heads up that we're expecting an announcement in about 2 minutes. When it comes, follow the procedures exactly as outlined in the emergency folder by the door. Emma's marker paused mid-letter. Is everything okay? Just be ready, Diane replied before hanging up abruptly. Emma stared at the phone, then at the attentive faces of 27 students who had no idea their ordinary Tuesday was about to transform into something altogether different.